Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story about family loyalty, unexpected betrayal, and standing up for oneself. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Refused to go to my sister's wedding after she didn't pick me to be her bridesmaid. My sister, 27-year-old female, is getting married in October. She and I, 25-year-old female, were really close. So close, she moved out to the state I was living. Shortly after moving, my sister's first husband cheated and divorced her, leaving her and her 2 sons with nothing. My sister got a job that had working nights and asked me to watch her sons from 2 p.m. to 12 a.m. with pay. I agreed. Well, as soon as I started watching her kids, she wasn't coming home until 2 or 3 a.m. and couldn't afford to pay me. I watched her kids for as long as I could without complaint because I loved the boys and wanted to be the only stable adult in their life, as their father became an alcoholic and their mom was never home or was bringing different men around them every week. Eventually, after 11 months of this, she ended up moving an hour away for a job with better hours. Finally, my sister meets her now fiancé last summer and they quickly got engaged. I was happy for her. My sister's fiancé will often ask me to watch her kids and his 2 kids for free. I love the kids and enjoy spending time with them, so I do it for them. Now to the bridesmaid debacle. When my sister got engaged, I'd asked her if she was going to have bridesmaids. She said no, and I was fine with it. Well, come to find out, she is going to have bridesmaids, and one of them is her fiancé's sister, someone she's known for less than a year, and had planned to keep this a secret and only have me find out the day of her wedding. I was upset because she lied about it, and it's upsetting knowing that for 3 years I've been breaking my back to take care of her and her boys. What really upset me was her reasons why she didn't pick me. Her reasons were, 1, because of my toxic relationship that ended 4 months ago. She didn't want the drama of it. And 2, fiance's sister and him are so close, and I wanted to incorporate her in our wedding to show appreciation. I find her first reason to be the most malicious, as me and my ex have not spoken since the breakup. To use that as an excuse is unforgivable in my opinion, as I supported her and never judged her during her first marriage and divorce. I was clearly upset, and I got out of her car and walked 35 minutes to my car and drove the hour home. My sister then called me and yelled at me for making her kids upset by leaving. I calmly told her, "You and your kids are no longer my problem," and I informed her that I will not be attending her wedding. She then responded by calling me a dramatic a-hole and said that if I want to hold a grudge and not come to the wedding, then fine. It's only going to hurt the kids who love you. I once again said that her kids are not my responsibility. I told her I will not be going to her wedding, and that is final. She ended the phone call by calling me an a-hole and that she should have just let me find out the day of the wedding. I then blocked her. Edit. I want to add that I don't care about being a bridesmaid. I'm upset that she picked his sister in general and lied about it. She didn't pick any of our other sisters who she also lied to about it. She picked his sister because she has this thing about wanting to be her friend. She's always pandered to her partner's family because she wants them to accept her. And I'm upset that her exact words were, "I would have picked you, but because of ex-boyfriend, I don't want you to be." Edit 2. Since people keep wondering how my other sisters feel, one sister is equally upset with me, agrees that she's burning her bridges because of her lying. One sister, I'm not sure how she feels about this exact situation, but has our sister blocked from a previous situation involving her fiance and her, so I'm sure she'll also be upset. The other sister was actually in on the whole thing, was picked to be a bridesmaid, so she sees nothing wrong with it. Not surprising. Edit 3. I'd like to clarify, my sister nor the children ever met my ex. Also, why does your sister's toxic past relationship get a free pass? According to her logic, she should elope, since anyone's past relationship is the focus point of a wedding. And our second story. Block a heavily traveled lane with your cart? Have fun finding it. This happened less than an hour ago. I was in big name wholesale store picking up a few things in preparation for the first snow of 2019. Unsurprisingly so, there were a number of people there who looked like they were hoarding supplies for a zombie apocalypse, so I tried to make my way out of there as quickly as possible. I ducked to a side lane as soon as entered, weaving through absent-mindedly placed carts to make my way to the opposite end of the store to pick up some water. I was making good time, picked up a few things of questionable necessity along the way, got my water, and made my way towards the checkout lanes. Then I ran into her. This woman, henceforth referred to as CV, after the Disney character, and absolutely not because I subconsciously compared her mass to an aircraft carrier, wore a Dalmatian skin pattern dress and burst through a side lane directly in front of me. Okay, I guess somebody's in more of a hurry than I am. I barely finished my thought when she stopped with half her cart blocking my way so she could squeeze in front of two other people to get to a package of almonds. Okay, I took a deep breath, backed up, moved my cart around her stopped cart, and went on my way toward the registers. The flow of carts slowed down as I got closer, so I slowed down as well and opened a gap between my cart and the shopper in front of me. Then, out of nowhere, CV steamed past two startled shoppers on the left and squeezed in front of my cart. I had to pull so hard on my cart to avoid a collision that the wheels screeched. Before I could say anything, CV left her cart and without even glancing my way, veered off to port side to browse. She dropped anchor in the middle of a heavily traveled lane, cutting me and everyone behind me off just so she could go browse 20 feet away. I took yet another deep breath, stepped around my cart, grabbed CV's cart, and shoved it down the empty detergent aisle to the right with enough force to carry the cart most of the way through. The entire sequence took less than 5 seconds to complete, and I didn't look back as I grabbed my cart and headed toward the registers. It took me 10 minutes to get to the front of my checkout line, and I didn't see CV enter the register area that entire time. I hope she's gone Flying Dutchman over that cart of hers. Brain-dead people blocking lane is pure cancer. But the most horrible part of your story is that you got stuck in check line for 10 sore minutes. Wow. And our next story. I don't let my neighbor's kids play in my yard until they pay to fix damage to my house. My father bought the house in the 80s and held on to it as different developments sprung up around it. I inherited it 3 years ago and have been living in it since I have 2 acres, while my surrounding neighbors have maybe half an acre if they're lucky. The house is fairly small, 2-bed, 2-bath, so I have a very large front and backyard. I use maybe 1/5 of the backyard as a garden and the rest is basically an empty field. I've always loved kids, so I was happy to let my neighbor's kids play in the field with the understanding that they would respect the property. Most of the kids are great, very respectful, and understand that this is not their backyard. The problem is with my neighbors to the right. They have 5 kids, female 1, male 3, male 5, female 5, and male 7, who generally run around unsupervised. They don't come to my yard to play very often unless the other kids are playing soccer or baseball. The 7-year-old is in charge, as much as a 7-year-old can be, but obviously he can't replace parental supervision. 5 days ago, the kids were playing baseball, and he must have lost track of the 5-year-olds at some point, because when I came home from work, I found their names sharpied onto my wall. Name and name were here, along with some rude drawings all along the right side of the house. I found their parents the next day and asked them to pay for the paint I'll need to cover it up. They were very offended, accused me of lying, and said they weren't going to pay. If this had been all, I probably would have let it slide and covered the paint since it would only be like $20. But later that day, male, 5, decided it would be funny to throw rocks at my house. There are several dents in the siding where the rocks hit, and 2 of my windows are broken. From what I've been quoted to fix it, it's about $800 to $900 worth of damage. I talked to the parents who accused me of doing it myself to make their kids look bad. I've decided those 5 are not allowed to use my yard until the damage is paid for, which I think is more than fair. When they came by this morning to play soccer with the other kids, I politely explained the situation and said they'd have to leave as they aren't allowed to play here anymore. The 7-year-old was very upset. More sad than a temper tantrum, which is understandable, but the 5-year-olds were very angry. About an hour later, their mom came by and cussed me out, yelling at my doorstep about how I'm a horrible person who hates children because I'm bitter and can't find a husband. I'm standing my ground either way, but a few other parents came by and seemed a little frustrated by my explanation as to why that family's no longer welcome. Edit. I'll be installing cameras. I dug my dad's old trail cams out of the garage, so I'll put those up either tonight or tomorrow. I'm aware of the liability issues with kids playing in my yard. I'm willing to risk it. I don't want to put up a fence. I think they're ugly. The property line is clearly marked. I will not be banning the entire neighborhood unless I absolutely have to. Edit 2. I also have a meeting scheduled with my attorney to discuss the possibility of drawing up a liability waiver for the parents to sign. Forgot to put that in the last edit. Edit 3. I've called CPS. They think everything's fine. 5-year-old male was still throwing the rocks when I got home. Several other kids in the neighborhood also let me know what happened. That's how I know it was him. Edit 4. They're also usually supervised. Typically, there's a parent or two hanging around anyway, and I work from home so the kids know to knock on my door and ask me to watch them if their parents are busy. I'm also looking into an umbrella policy that would be more likely to cover any injuries that occur. And our last story. Karen calls 911 into my house. I'm a 20-year-old girl, just 4.92 feet tall. My father divorced my mother early on, but he saved money for me for 16 years. When I became an adult, he bought me a small house in a cozy neighborhood. My neighbors are wonderful, but there's one person who spoils the beauty of this place, a neighbor named Karen. Karen seemed to hate me from the first day we met. She constantly shouted, "My son is a policeman. He'll ruin your life if I tell him to." She often came over and argued with me if I was sitting with friends in the backyard or mowing the lawn at an inappropriate time. I even suspect that she scratched my car. One evening, when I was enjoying an episode of Game of Thrones, Karen, who was drunk, started banging on my door and yelling to let her in. She accused me of stealing a pizza she had ordered. I refused to let her in, and Karen left, but soon returned with a hammer and started breaking down my door, threatening that her son would come and arrest me. I was genuinely scared. But to my surprise, the police arrived very quickly, within about 5 minutes. It wasn't Karen's son, but a regular officer. Karen started screaming at the officer, demanding he break down the door and arrest me. She even ran at him with a hammer. The officer pepper sprayed her when she wouldn't stop and arrested her. I came out and explained to the officer that Karen had tried to break into my house and that I wanted to press charges. At that moment, the pizza delivery guy arrived, and it became clear that the pizza was indeed ordered by Karen. Her blood test revealed a high level of alcohol and medication. Karen did have a son who worked in the police, but even he couldn't tolerate her. This was her second charge within a year, and she was sentenced to 7 months in jail. Since then, I've been living more peacefully, enjoying my life in my cozy little house, knowing that now I can mow the lawn whenever I want and sit with friends in the backyard without fearing attacks from my scandalous neighbor. This story teaches us that sometimes the best weapon against a troublesome neighbor is nothing more than a little patience and a policeman with pepper spray. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.